Hello, welcome to this video for Yes Fitness Online. This video will be talking about your inner critic. Okay, so let's jump right in. Thank you for joining me. Hope you find this really useful. Okay, so in this module, we'll be looking in detail at the inner critic, what it is and the various names for it, how we can address it in the short term to turn it from negative to positive, where it comes from and why we have it. And lastly, we'll look at your comfort zone and how this relates to your inner critic. Okay, so what is it? The inner critic, or critical inner voice, which you might see it described as if you Google it, is something we all have inside our minds that talks away non-stop, advising you, warning you, and often criticizing you. Okay, it comes from the really old part of your brain that just cares about your survival. If you Google inner critic, and you'll see a wealth of resources on the subject, which include getting it to shut up, overcoming it, and embracing it. Okay, so what is it really? Okay, essentially, it is a method of survival from a part of the brain that's very old. Now, we evolved in a time when there were dangers around every corner or every second of the day. And when your world is very dangerous, the inner critic is a useful tool to have. In caveman times, you might go out of your cave and come face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. We evolved to have the inner critic to save us, to keep us alive, to ask us, what do you think is on the other side of that boulder? Maybe you should peek first to see if it's clear. What if I leave now and get eaten? What if I don't bring back enough food? The ones whose inner critic was silent or non-existent just wandered straight out and got eaten. So you can see how useful it was for the human race's survival, and it can still be utilized as a great tool when you know how to use it for the good. Chances are, if you find yourself feeling down, you tend to punish yourself, beat yourself up, go over and over mistakes in the past that happened, or even have developed a habit of self-sabotage, then your inner critic isn't on your side. It's not working effectively for the good of you, and we need to get that under control. So if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and you're replaying things that happened years ago, and you haven't got a time machine, you can't go back in time and change it. All that is just your inner critic kind of reminding you of all the potential dangers out there. But it's not useful for you mentally right now to keep focusing on these things in the past. Okay, many self-help or personal development books talk about the inner critic. So you might have heard or read about it before. It comes in so many names, so many forms. Susan Jeffers from Feel the 300 Anyway talks about the inner chatterbox. Sean Aker refers to a study in which it's called the jerk. And Dr. Maxwell Maltz talks about it in his book Psycho-Cybernetics. And also they talk about it in the chimp paradox. It's simply the chimp in that we all have voices in our heads. It's completely normal. It's how we use those voices to guide us in seeking out a fulfilling, healthy, happy life. Okay, remember, your brain doesn't care whether you are miserable, fat, lonely, angry. None of these things are on its radar. It only cares whether you are alive, and it will do everything possible to keep you alive and surviving. Note, surviving isn't necessarily living. I love that part in WALL-E where if you've not seen WALL-E, then perhaps stop listening for the next 10 seconds. But they find the hidden message, which says it's just easier to stay in space because it's too hard to go back to Earth and fix the problems that they've created. And the autopilot says to the captain, on the axiom, you will survive. And the captain says, I don't want to survive. I want to live. So ask yourself, do you want to just survive or do you want to live? Okay, dealing with your inner critic in the short term. We need to get your inner critic under control. So this means getting to grips with when to listen and act, when to have an inner dialogue with it, and when to shut it up. We can't change what we're not aware of. So the first step is to become aware of this inner voice jabbering away all the time. It doesn't mean you have to listen and act on what the voice is saying, but it does mean you need to hear it. Spend a little time hearing that voice and the types of things it says. Are they positive things? Are they encouraging things? Or are they judgmental things? Possibly even nasty or negative things. Just take a few moments to listen to your inner critic right now. Is that voice building you up or is it breaking you down? If you said, yes, they're nasty and breaking down comments, then we have got to get that inner critic under control now, as soon as possible. So what I need you to do is to shut that critic up. When you hear that voice start chiming in with that crap, that white noise of negativity, you need to tell it to stop. Then ask yourself, what's next? And move on. Write this down now. Grab yourself a pen and paper or get out your phone, something where you can make a note. Write this down. Stop. Ask yourself, what's next? And then move on. Now, this is a great strategy. Firstly, you've muted or completely shut the inner critic up. Secondly, you've asked your brain a question. This is what your brain was meant to do. Imagine your brain is like a Google search page. It's just sitting there waiting for a query. The second you put something in that search box, it comes alive and it goes to work. Your brain can sometimes be an untapped resource. And the best thing, it never stops. It doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't have downtime. It's working all the time. Anytime you find yourself faced with a problem, ask yourself a question. This goes into your brain search engine and it starts searching. You may not get an answer straight away, but often you find the answer just comes to you, and that's the query coming back. Use this. By asking yourself, what's next? You divert your brain from giving all the energy and airtime to the inner critic, so it has to divert energy into finding an answer to your question. This could be anything. Go for a walk, do laundry, go to the loo, get a coffee. It doesn't matter. What matters is the asking part. Asking, what's next? The last step, is to move on. So physically move. Do the thing your brain suggested when you asked it what's next. Just move on. Your inner critic might start up again, so just repeat. Practice this every time your inner critic pipes up. Stop, ask yourself, what's next? Then move on. If it helps, put it on a card or a post-it or something around the house, somewhere where you will see it frequently. And also every week or so, if you're going to do this, every week or so, move them around so that you don't become blind to what's on the wall, because how often do we actually see and look at our surroundings? The more you practice this, the quieter your inner critic will get. The more you practice this, the less your inner critic will talk to you. The more you practice this, the less you'll need to actively do the 3 steps. It will become second nature. Now, we don't want the inner critic to shut up forever. At one point, when we get it under control, you can actually enter into a small dialogue with your inner critic. But for right now, you just need to get it under control. This is not the right time to be chatting to it, because while it's so loud and insistent and in control, you'll just end up arguing with yourself. And we don't want that. We want you to stop, ask what's next, and move on. Okay? The comfort zone. This is where your brain feels safe. It is familiar. It is exactly what it says, comfy. It's been there before, explored every part of it, and it knows it's safe. This is great. But if you stay there, you will not grow. If you stay where it is safe, you won't learn new things. You'll miss out on so much. You'll have seen plenty of comfort zone quotes. There's a couple in the slide right now. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone, and so on. But it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be happy or unafraid stepping out of it. Some advice: take baby steps. Start to step out of your comfort zone in small ways. And over time, you can work on expanding this. So let's say you're shy meeting new people. I'm not saying host a party with 100 strangers as guests and be the life and soul of the party. No, that's unrealistic. Maybe ask a friend to bring another friend who you don't know and just meet them for coffee or something. Next time, make it 2. Keep increasing your goals. As you practice stepping out and doing things that you're afraid of, it will get less scary. Your comfort zone will expand around you. You could set yourself a goal of doing something slightly out of your comfort zone every day. And yes, that inner critic is going to pipe up as it wants you to stay safe. But you're going to stop, ask yourself what's next, and then move on. Thank you for listening to this talk about the inner critic. Hopefully there were some parts that resonated with you. And if you have any questions, please add them to the group or Facebook message me or email me. Contact me anytime you need me. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.